Welcome back to RetroWheelsVault, where horsepower never dies. I'm RetroVault 4, unlocking a machine that struts rather than walks. The 1970 Mercury Montego MX. Picture a linebacker in a tailored suit, grill, thrust forward like it's spoiling for a fight. Because modern cars forgot what muscle means. Let's dive into the drama behind this bruiser. Here's where things get juicy. The 1970 Montego lineup didn't just happen in a vacuum. Its styling reportedly carried the fingerprints of Seaman Bunkie Knudsen during his brief and famously turbulent stint as president of Ford Motor Company. Think of Bunkie as the substitute teacher who rearranges the whole classroom in one afternoon, leaving a distinct stamp before anyone learns his last name properly. He'd come from General Motors, where longer, lower, wider was practically scripture, and that GM DNA seems to have hitchhiked its way into Mercury's design studio. Knudsen's Ford tenure lasted less than 2 years, cut short amid corporate friction, but the aesthetic ripples stuck around far longer than he did, like a house guest who leaves but the furniture has been rearranged forever. So when you look at that aggressive forward-leaning face on the Montego MX, you're not just looking at a Mercury. You're looking at a snapshot of corporate intrigue, ego, and cross-pollinated design philosophy, all wrapped in sheet metal and rolling on white walls. Detroit boardrooms in 1970 were practically their own soap opera, complete with cliffhangers and a wardrobe budget bigger than most sitcoms. And somehow, all that backstage tension distilled down into a single forward-leaning grille you can still admire in your driveway today. For 1970, Mercury didn't just tweak the Montego. It performed a mid-cycle makeover with real intention, and the first casualty was the Comet name, dropped entirely from the intermediate range like a nickname you've finally outgrown. The chassis stretched an extra inch of wheelbase across both sedans and wagons, giving the whole lineup a touch more stride in its step. Up front, designers sculpted a forward-thrusting grille and hood that looked ready to bite, and MX Brougham trim hid its headlamps behind sleek doors, like a boxer keeping its fist concealed until the bell rings. The convertible got cut entirely from the lineup. Mercury apparently decided the win-in-your-hair crowd could look elsewhere, while the two-door hardtop adopted a sleeker, more fastback inspired roofline. The MX trim itself was the overachiever of the family. Full-length upper and lower body trim, chrome accents tracing the wheel wells, and a vinyl top for that formal touch. Step inside and you find metal upper door frames, wood grain inserts along the lower body molding, plush carpeting, and matched wood trim door panels. It was an equal parts muscle and drawing room, a car that could floor it on Monday and chauffeur the in-laws on Sunday without changing a stitch of clothing. Now, let's spot the hood, because Mercury offered a genuine buffet of power plants here, ranging from sensible commuter to please notify the neighbors. Base duty fell to the 250 cubic inch inline 6, a cast iron workhorse making 155 horsepower at 4,000 RPM, with a 3.7 inch bore, 3.9 inch stroke, 9-to-1 compression, and a humble 1-barrel carburetor doing all the breathing. Think of it as the reliable accountant of the lineup. Not flashy, but it'll show up every day. Step up to the 351 cubic inch V8, and suddenly you've got 300 horses at 5,400 RPM and 380 foot-pounds of torque at 3,400 RPM, with an 11.4 to 1 compression ratio and an Autolite 2100-2150 two-barrel carburetor feeding the fire. But the headline act was the 429 cubic inch V8. 370 ponies at 4,600 RPM, a wall of 450 foot-pounds of torque at 3,400 RPM, 10.5 to 1 compression, and a Holley 4160 4-barrel carburetor gulping 750 CFM like it's late for a flight. All three shared cast iron blocks because in 1970, subtlety wasn't in the metallurgy either. This was an engine bay with options, and the top one had genuine attitude, the kind that rattles windows and starts conversations at every gas station on the way home. Powering all that displacement to the pavement, Mercury gave buyers 3 ways to shift their fate. Purists could row their own gears with a 3-speed Toploader manual, a transmission as tough and no-nonsense as its name suggests. built to survive abuse without complaint, like a chassis-mounted anvil with a shift lever. For those wanting an extra cog to play with, the 4-speed Toploader manual added another layer of control, letting drivers keep the big block V8 singing in its sweet spot. And for buyers who'd rather let the car do the thinking, there was a 3-speed Cruise-O-Matic automatic, smooth enough for a Sunday drive, yet sturdy enough to handle the torque of the 429 without flinching. 3 transmissions, 3 personalities, one for the racer, one for the tinkerer, and one for the cruiser who just wants to steer and sip coffee. Whichever you chose, the Toploader name alone carried a reputation forged in Ford's performance programs, giving the Montego MX genuine mechanical street cred underneath all that formal wear styling. It's a kind of hardware that quietly does its job while the engine gets all the applause, the reliable stagehand behind every horsepower headline. Underneath that broad-shouldered body, the Montego MX rode on the Ford Torino's unibody chassis, essentially sharing its skeleton with a sibling from the other side of the showroom floor, like cousins who show up to the family reunion wearing different outfits, but unmistakably related. Up front, Coil Springs handled suspension duty, soaking up bumps with a composed, almost businesslike calm, while out back, Leaf Springs took over, the old-school reliable choice that's been hauling American iron since the horse and buggy days learned to trust steel instead of hay. This wasn't cutting-edge exotic engineering. It was proven, sturdy, and built to be fixed with tools you probably already owned. The unibody construction itself was a meaningful shift for the era, blending body and frame into one rigid structure rather than the old body-on-frame approach, trading a bit of old-school ruggedness for tighter handling and a quieter ride. Combined with that stretched wheelbase, the chassis gave the Montego MX a planted, confident stance, like a boxer setting his feet before throwing a punch. It wasn't a sports car by any stretch, but it knew how to carry its considerable weight with poise like a heavyweight who's also surprisingly light on its feet. Step inside the Montego MX, and that poised, planted chassis translates into a cabin that split the difference between muscle car and gentleman's lounge, a genuine blend of comfort and style, reflecting the trends of the time right down to the stitching. The dashboard wore a gauge-packed design with instruments canted toward the driver like they're leaning in to whisper important information directly at you, no squinting or guesswork required. The steering wheel here is a Grant model, gripping duty handled with old school flair, the kind of wheel that feels like it's been shaped by decades of confident hands. Custom trim Corbeau bucket seats swap in for genuine comfort and handling support, holding driver and passenger snug through back road runs like a firm handshake that never lets go. Every service in there has a job. Every job gets done without fuss or flash. The result is a cabin that's clean and well maintained throughout, focused on a genuinely comfortable environment for everyone riding along, whether you're chasing horizon lines or just enjoying the view. It's proof that comfort and character were never mutually exclusive in 1970. A well-bolstered seat and a thoughtfully angled gauge cluster say more than any touchscreen ever could. Out back, putting all that torque to the pavement sits a 9.5-inch rear axle, beefy enough to handle the 429's 450 foot-pounds without breaking a sweat, like a linebacker asked to carry the groceries. It's the unsung hero of the drivetrain, quietly absorbing punishment while the engine and transmission soak up all the glory. A rear end this size wasn't just for show, it was engineered to survive the kind of stoplight theatrics 1970s muscle car owners were famous for. Simple, tough, and built for torque, exactly what a big block Montego demanded from the axle holding it all together. Numbers-wise, the Montego MX wasn't shy about taking up space. Stretching 208.6 inches nose to tail, it was longer than some studio apartments with a width of 79.1 inches, giving it real road presence. This thing didn't sneak up on anybody. Height came in at 53.1 inches, low enough to look purposeful without scraping speed bumps, while that stretched 118.5 inch wheelbase gives the whole package a long, confident stance, like a sprinter mid-stride. Curb weight tipped the scales at 3,737 pounds. Hefty, but not surprising for a car built from steel rather than modern aluminum and plastic composites. Every dimension here speaks to an era when intermediate was a relative term, and Mercury clearly believed bigger footprints made bigger statements. It's a size that demands its own parking space and probably a small wave of respect from anyone standing nearby when it rolls in. Compare that to today's compact cars, and the Montego MX practically qualifies as a small yacht, one with a keel flat stance, a broad beam, and absolutely zero interest in squeezing into a compact spot. Back in 1970, intermediate clearly meant impressive, and Mercury's engineers seemed determined to prove that bigger dimensions could still feel balanced rather than bloated, a genuine trick considering how much sheet metal they were working with. Every classic has its highlight reel and its blooper reel, and the Montego MX is no exception. On the strength side, you've got a genuine versatile engine lineup, a torque happy 429 option for buyers who want a real thunder, tough top-loader transmissions, and a styling distinctive enough to turn heads at any stoplight, even 50 plus years later. The unibody Torino-based chassis also gave it more composed handling than older body-on-frame intermediates, a genuine plus for spirited driving. On the weakness side, well, fuel economy was never part of the sales pitch. Big block V8s and gas mileage mix about as well as oil and water. The extra length and weight also meant this wasn't the nimblest dance partner in parking lots, more heavyweight boxer than featherweight sprinter. And with a convertible drop from the lineup, open air fans were left out in the cold, or rather left out in the sun. Parts availability today can also be a scavenger hunt since the Montego lives somewhat in the shadow of flashier batchmates. Still, for buyers wanting presence, power, and a dash of corporate intrigue baked into the sheet metal, the trade-offs were easy to swallow, especially with the big block V8 doing the talking every time the light turned green. So there you have it, the 1970 Mercury Montego MX, a car built during a genuine identity shuffle at Ford, wearing styling shaped by boardroom politics and powered by an engine bay that ranged from sensible to seismic. Its formal wear and muscle shirt rolled into one 3,737-pound package, proof that Detroit could do subtlety and spectacle in the very same model year, sometimes in the very same trim line. Now I want to hear from you. Which engine would you have ordered? The Workhorse 6, the Balance 351, or the Thunderous 429? Drop your pick in the comments and let me know if corporate drama like Bunkie Knudsen, short for tenure, changes how you look at classic styling decisions. If you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button, subscribe for more forgotten icons, and ring the bell so you never miss a vault opening. And honestly, whichever engine you'd have picked, one thing's certain, nobody was mistaking this car for a wallflower on any street in 1970, and it still turns heads at every Cars and Coffee meet it rolls into today. Hit the notification button too, because we've got plenty more forgotten Detroit icons waiting in the vault. Until next time, remember, keep it loud, keep it classic.